Hi, my name is Jim McNally. I was born and raised in Woonsocket, Rhode Island, in the United States, and I was raised as a Roman Catholic. My mother and father were both Catholics, not great churchgoers, uh, but I was as a youngster, and in fact, even in my early teenage years. I used to bring two of my younger sisters to church, and I was uh, introduced to alcohol at a young age, and I liked its effects. And by the time that I had graduated from high school, I was still going to church. I was not an altar boy anymore, and my vocation of becoming a priest had died away, and I was basically, by the time I had graduated from high school, 18 years old, I was a full-blown alcoholic. I had had blackouts and things of that nature, um, but I denied that I was that, and I went to college for a couple of years, dropped out during the Vietnam War, and went in the Navy for 4 years. Came back, finished my college education, and I got a job working in New York City for an insurance company. And one night I went to a party and I had too much to drink, and there was an accident. It wasn't, somewhat my fault, but anyway, I had to have an operation on my knee as a result of that. And I met a young woman, and someone about my age. She was my physical therapist, and eventually we got engaged. And by now, my alcoholism had really taken over my life. And at one point, she decided that I was not the marrying material that she thought I was, and so she called it off of the wedding. And so I went and begged again to her to give me another chance, and I'd done that numerous times before. And I wasn't going to church anymore. I had stopped going to church. And she suggested that I go and do something about my drinking. And so I got involved in some recovery program. And what I found was that she and I did get married. I did go back to church, but I struggled with many of the things that had been going on with the church, and there was a lot of confusion within myself uh, as far as, was Catholicism the right religion, or was there any right religion? Uh, and why would God, or whatever you want to call it, uh, have only one right religion? And everybody else is penalized. It just didn't make sense to me. And so I found through the recovery program that part of my problem, besides being physically addicted to alcohol and emotionally upset because of alcohol, I had a spiritual lacking in my life. And it was through that recovery that I realized that some power, higher power, God, love, whatever, had helped introduce me to this recovery program. And then through that, I actually then found what I was been looking for is some spiritual level, be it a higher power or God, that I could actually feel comfortable with, that I didn't think that I was going to be going to hell, and all of those things that I had perceived I was being taught by the Catholic Church as a kid. I hear things now about the church, and some of the mystics within the church, if they're mystics, but I mean, very interesting people. Father Thomas Keating, Father Richard Rohr, who have provided me with a lot of substance for my growth in spiritual life. And so I find that my spiritual life has been one that really hasn't been lacking. It just is not out there as I'm going to church on Sunday and Wednesday or whatever. My guide in that recovery program suggested that I he asked if I believed in God, and I said yes. And he said, well, why don't you ask that God to help you be a better person, not drink and drug, and he said, at the end of the day, why don't you say thank you for the fact that you've gotten through a day without having a drink or a drug. And so I have been doing that now probably 99% of the time for almost 50 years. I have found that I have not a desire to go back to drink or drug, but I've still got issues. I have what I would call character defects or imperfections, but I now know that and believe and feel that because of those, I'm not going to go to hell. In fact, the power that I understand loves me, has always loved me, and has always been there to help me. I mean, I remember at one time I got down on my knees and I just said, God, help me, please help me. And that had an impact over a tremendous period of time, 40 to 50 years. I mean, it was something where I didn't have a bright white light or anything of that nature, but a gradual development of a spiritual nature where I now feel very comfortable knowing that I do have a power that made me, that loves me, that cares about me, and has helped me to deal with one of the things for years that really impacted me was the idea of death. I was very fearful of death. And it was through a prayer by a Cistercian or Trappist monk, Thomas Merton, who presided right here in Kentucky, where he talks about that, he doesn't know where he's going or what he's doing, but he's trying to please his God, and that he's going to try to do that all the time, and that he really feels that he has that God in his corner. And on top of that, he says that he doesn't fear death anymore. And so I try to say that prayer regularly because it has helped me to come to have less fear about death. And at the age of almost 78, man, I'm on the downside, right? But I do know that there is that power that loves me. And so I don't have that fear as much as I used to. I do find that for myself, I need to practice prayer. And now I've become a person who does meditation, again, 99% of the time in the morning. And I've tried to be a perfectionist, but I know I can't be. And I've found that there's an hour period that a group of us get online and we meditate, and we have discussions afterwards about various topics that someone might bring up. And it has helped me to rejoin the human race, because the people in the group talk about how they feel and what they're going through and suffering from. And I realize that I'm not unique. I'm very much an average Joe, other than I've got this situation, my issue, amongst many, but the major one was too much drinking, which I've worked on to keep control of. But I don't keep control of it. It's that power. When I ask, help me, I don't want to have a drink or a drug. And I do that often, daily, and thankful daily. Been very successful. So my spiritual life has been one of indoctrination within the Catholic Church, and the confusion that I had as I grew up and kind of drifted away. And I really didn't want to be hamstrung by the precepts of the church, you know. And of course, the various things I thought that there would be a hell, and if there was a hell, I was absolutely going to go there, so I might as well do whatever. And then as I grew older and came to understand that I don't have to worry about hell, and that there is love in my life from that power outside of me, God, Allah, Great Spirit of the universe. And that's been my development over the last basically 50 years of changing from a person who's afraid of a higher power, God, to one that understands and believes and has faith that God, whatever you want to call it, loves me, cares about me, and that all I have to do is try to do the best I can. And I hang around with people that help me and remind me to do the best I can. So I think that I'm probably about at the end of time. And so I think we'll make this a quick goodbye. But if no one has told you today that they love you and care, I do. And thanks for listening to me. Thanks. Jim McNally.